Lieutenant Sevastopol. No sign of the Orc transport, but we are picking up the Inquisitor's distress signal again.
Finally. Can you narrow down the search vector?
Negative, Lieutenant. The interference that we encountered upon planetfall has been steadily increasing.
I don't like it, Promus. Reminds me of that business on Ventress 7. Be ready.
Aye, Lieutenant. Wait. The interference is clearing. No. This can't be right.
Sergeant? Promus!
Contacts! They're coming from the ground. They're everywhere.
Form a line, brothers. Warm up the plasma and wait for my signal.
Hi guys, this is Russ from GFN Gaming, and today's battle will be between the Necrons of the Hierophant Dynasty and the First Legion, the Dark Angels. Today we're going to be continuing on the narrative Commander's journey, and we're using the Commander's International rule set, the details of which can be found in the description on this video. We're going to be playing Mission 3 from the Commander's International pack, and that mission is called Keep Away. Here is the setup and deployment zones for Mission 3. And the additional mission objective, which is, at the end of the battle round, score 1 victory point if no models from your kill team are even partially within the battlefield quarter that includes your deployment zone. As with all Commanders International games, there are a set of primary objectives, and they are as follows. Control 1 or more objectives, control more objectives than your opponent, kill 1 or more enemy models, kill more than your opponent, and more enemy models taken out of action by your commander than your opponent's commander. That's the mission. Now let's look at the teams, starting with the Dark Angels. The Dark Angels chapter tactic is Grim Resolve, which means rerolling 1s in the shooting phase if I've been stationary and rerolling that broken test. In Commanders International you pick 3 from a list of secondary objectives to complete during the game, and I've taken the following for the Dark Angels: David and Goliath, Death from Afar, and Steadfast. Moving on to the teams now, and commanding the Dark Angels will be the Primaris Lieutenant. He's armed with a mastercrafted auto bolt rifle and a mastercrafted power sword. He'll be taking the melee specialism to get an additional attack. On loan from the Deathwing we have a Terminator Sergeant. He'll have a Storm Bolter and a power sword. My first specialist will be a comms specialist. It's a company veteran with a Astartes chainsword and standard bolt gun, and he'll also have a combat shield. Second specialist in the team is going to be the Heavy. He's going to be a TAC Marine gunner, and I've armed him with a plasma cannon. Final specialist on the team is going to be a Sniper company veteran, and I've given him a plasma gun. I could see an argument for not taking Sniper because of the inherent reroll 1s, but just in case he's on the move, I've taken Sniper here. First non-specialist, and I've taken another company veteran. It says just a plasma gun, but technically he's got a combi plasma. I've got another company veteran, this time with a plasma pistol and Astartes chainsword. And finally, just a standard TAC Marine. Nothing special, just bolt gun. And that's it. That's the Adeptus Astartes Dark Angels kill team. Now moving on to the Necrons. I'll be taking the Zerakan Dynastic Code, which will give me Uncanny Artificers. This means I get a reroll, a failed hit, and wound roll in each phase. I've also taken my 3 secondary objectives in which to score victory points during each turn. I've taken David and Goliath, Overkill, and 4 quarters. Commanding the Necrons today will be a Technomancer. He's armed with the Staff of Light and he has the Kinetic Cloak upgrade. He's also going to have the melee specialism, just in case someone gets him in combat. Taking the leader slot will be an Immortal with Gauze Blaster. I've taken a Flayed One as my Zealot specialism to give him a +1 attack and strength on the charge. For my combat specialist, I've gone for a Lich Guard with Hyperphase Sword and Dispersion Shield. I must admit I'm a fan of a veteran Triarch Praetorian, so I've taken one and he's armed with a Rod of Covenant. And just so he doesn't get lonely on the bus ride home, I've taken another non-specialist Triarch Praetorian, again armed with the Rod of Covenant. Filling up the last of the Necron team are 2 Necron Immortals, both armed with Tesla carbines. That's it, that's both the teams. Now let's move on to turn 1. Turn 1 deployment roll, Dark Angels get an 8, as do the Necrons, so we roll again. Dark Angels get a 6, and the Necrons win with an 11. They'll pick sides and deploy first. In terms of the Necrons deployment, I wanted to make use of my 3 flying models to make sure that I could get 4 quarters from turn 1 onwards. With the Dark Angels, I did want to lean into their Grim Resolve chapter tactic, giving rerolls if stationary, and that pairs quite nicely with Death from Afar if I can set up a gun line, but I also need to make sure I am securing at least 2 of those objectives as well. That's the deployment done, so here's a quick recap of where everything ended up. Before the battle round can begin, the Necrons are going to use 1 CP for Adaptive Tactics, meaning they get to move their veteran specialist before the game starts. He's also going to advance and he gets a 4. Now for the turn 1 initiative roll. Dark Angels get a 10 and the Necrons get a double 6, so they'll be going first. Triarch Praetorian at the top there is going to advance, getting a 2 and moving towards objective 2. Also advancing along with him is the Zealot Flayed One, getting a 5, so keeping up easily. The Technomancer is just going to fly up to objective 4. And the Combat Lich Guard is going to advance also, taking some cover behind the supports for the walkway. Tesla Immortal is going to climb over the power relays to get to objective 3. And the second Tesla Immortal is just going to scuttle forward to get a little bit of cover behind the power relays. The Leader Immortal and Veteran Triarch were both ready. And here's a recap of the Necron turn 1 movement phase. As you can see, they've got objectives 3 and 4, and assuming the Veteran can survive, they've got 4 quarters in turn 1. The Terminator Sergeant's going to move towards objective 2. Plasma Cannon Heavy is just going to ready. The Lieutenant Commander is going to advance, getting a 4 and moving towards objective 4 and the Necron lines. The Comm Specialist is going to take objective 1. Just a quick range check and the Plasma Sniper is going to ready as well. Advancing alongside the Terminator Sergeant is the Company Veteran with Chainsword. The TAC Marine is also going to advance, sticking to the walkways. Other Company Veteran with the Combi Melter is just going to move down to get a bit of cover from the Triarch Praetorian. And here's a recap of the movement phase for the Dark Angels. They're currently holding objectives 1 and 2, and of course for Steadfast they need to make sure they continue to hold either of those until the end of the game. Start at the shooting phase now, and the Triarch Praetorian veterans are going to shoot through and try and take out the plasma cannon. At this range it'll be 1 shot hitting on 5s. Oh, and he does get him. Strength 5, Toughness 4, so just wounding on 3s. Fails on a 1, but we're going to use a reroll. And it's a wound on a 4. -3 on the Rod of Covenant, so it'll be a 6 up save. Fails on a 3, so this will be 2 damage going through. At this stage we're looking for 5s and 6s due to being obscured. I really don't want to lose the fancy plasma cannon, so I'm going to use Death Denied because I've got the CP and he's just going to take a flesh wound instead. Slightly feeling the pressure now to actually fire the plasma cannon before he gets toasted, so he's going to fire into the Necron commander. He's got the Comma Specialist with him, so he's getting +1, but he is obscured, so he's going to be hitting on 3s, re-rolling 1s because of Grim Resolve. D3 shots comes up as just 1. And he rolls literally the one thing that would miss. Bravo. Leader Immortal's going to fire his Gauze Blaster into the flesh-wounded plasma cannon. At this range, and with obscured, he's going to be hitting on 5s, and it'll just be 1 shot. Misses on a 4, but he's going to use a Zerakan reroll, and gets him. Strength 5, Toughness 4, so wounding on 3s. And that's a wound on a 3, -2, so it'll be a 5-up save. He's obscured, but he has a flesh wound, so this is 4s to take him out of action. Fails on a 3, and they are going to use their last CP this round to try and reroll it. And it's still just a flesh wound, but that is 2 flesh wounds on the plasma cannon. Plasma Sniper is going to overcharge and fire into the Tesla Immortal. Hits on a 6, Strength 8, Toughness 5, so wounding on 3s. -3 damage, so it will be a 6-up save for the Immortal. That means 2d6 to take him out of action and a chance to get death from afar. And it's Snake Eyes with no rerolls available. All the readied models have now fired, so we're going to move on with the Necron initiative. We're going to start with the Technomancer, and he's going to fire his Staff of Light into this Tac Marine. It's not a terrible ranged weapon, it is only damage 1, but it is Strength 5 and it's Assault 3 with -2 AP. At this range, it's going to be hitting on 4s. Hits all 3 times, again Strength 5, so it'll be wounding on 3s. I forgot I hadn't used the Zerakan reroll, but it's just the 1 wound, and it's a -2, so saving on a 5-up. Failed save on a 1, so that's 1 wound down. Not overcharging, the Combi Plasma is going to fire with Plasma at the Triarch Praetorian, and both miss. Unwounded Tesla Immortal is going to shoot through at the Plasma Sniper, needing 5s to hit, and he gets 1, and it's a wound on a 5. No AP, so a 3-up save. And he fails it, so that's 1 wound down on the Plasma Sniper. Lieutenant's going to fire into the Technomancer, he's advanced and he's in cover, so needing 5s to hit. The wounded Tesla Immortal is going to fire at the flesh-wounded Plasma Cannon, needing 6s to hit, but it is Tesla, and they both miss. Terminator Sergeant's going to fire his Stormbolter into the Triarch Praetorian. Within half range, so this is 4 shots, hitting on 4s. And that's 3 hits, and that's 2 wounds. No AP, so a 3-up save. And that's 1 wound down on the Triarch Praetorian. This company veteran can just see the Lich Guard hiding out by the walkway support, and he's going to fire his bolt gun into him. Within half range, so this is going to be 2 shots hitting on 4s. And they both hit. Strength 4, Toughness 5, so it's going to be wounding on 5s. And that's a wound on a 6. No AP though, so it's just going to be a 3-up save. And that's a wound down to bolter fire. There's no combat this battle round, so we're just going to look at the scores at the end of turn 1. Starting with the Dark Angels, and it's a pretty low scoring round, no models were taken out of action, so we're just looking at objectives and secondaries. The Dark Angels do control objectives 1 and 2, but they don't control more objectives than the Necrons. In terms of the Dark Angels secondaries, 2 of them are sort of endgame ones with Steadfast and David and Goliath, and they didn't get anything from Death from Afar, so that is 0 points for the secondary objectives. Moving on to the Necrons turn 1, and it's pretty much the same story. With no models taken out of action, we're only looking at objectives, and both sides got 2. Moving on to the secondaries for the Necrons, again they have Overkill, which didn't get them any points this turn, and they also have David Goliath, more of an endgame or whenever it happens. They did get a point for 4 quarters, which means they'll get 1 point for the secondaries and 1 point for the primary, just giving them a lead at 2-1. So with the score at 2-1 to the Necrons, we move on to turn 2. Lovely, lovely new turn animation. Turn 2 initiative roll, Necrons get an 8, and the Dark Angels get a 4. Trying to take that home objective away from the Dark Angels, we're going to charge with the Triarch Praetorian, but he fails on a 4, so we're going to use a tactical reroll, and he fails it on a 3. He did fail the charge, but at least he's a very good open target for everyone to shoot at. So, silver linings. The Triarch Praetorian charges into the Sergeant and the Company Veteran on a roll of an 11. Overwatch from the Stormbolter. 1 hit and 2 I can reroll because of Grim Resolve. I did have to read it twice though. Gets me another hit. This is Strength 4, Toughness 5, so wounding on 5s. And that's 1 wound. He's only got the 1 left, but it's no AP, so 3-up save. Well, that's terrible. Gonna have to use a reroll because he might die before he gets in. Of course. Just the one dice, so needing a 5 and not a 6. Nothing quite like seeing both players smiling at a 6 before one of them realises that they're Necrons. So that means not out of action and not even a flesh wound. The combat Lich Guard is now going to bum rush the Lieutenant and take him out of action. Overwatch first. No hits on the Overwatch. And he makes it in on a double 6 comfortably. The Technomancer is going to ready, as is the leader and the Immortal with 1 wound. And the Tesla Immortal is going to hop over to put a non-flesh wounded body on that objective 3. The Zealot Flayed One who followed the Praetorian to the left is going to charge into the company veteran next to the Terminator Sergeant, and he gets it on a 10. And here's a recap of the turn 2 movement phase for the Necrons. As you can see, they still hold their 2 objectives 3 and 4, and they're now contesting objective 2. It does look like the Praetorian's within 3 inches of the centre. He had enough movement not to be, and the intention is he's just outside of 3 inches. I'm pretty sure he is outside of 3 inches, but it looks odd. The Dark Angel's gun line is all going to ready up, so that's the comms, the heavy, and the sniper. Company veteran's going to move here so he can shoot at the Praetorian, and the TAC Marine's going to advance, getting a 4, and he's closing in on the commander. That's it for the movement phase, so here's a quick recap of what the Dark Angels did. The Dark Angels are holding Objective 1 and are currently contesting Objective 2. It's important for their steadfast secondary that they hold 1 for the entire game. At this point, the Necrons have gone first in both turns, really putting them on the offensive. Being able to dictate where the battle happens means that they're now on 3 objectives, and it's now up to the Dark Angels to fight back. And the Necrons have a lot of T5, and that reanimation protocol makes it quite hard to shift them once they're on the objectives. The Immortal leader is going to start off the shooting phase, firing his Gauss Blaster into the flesh-wounded plasma cannon. At this range, it's going to be 1 shot, hitting on 5s. That's a miss, but we're going to use a Zerakan reroll, and he scores a hit, strength 5, toughness 4, so wounding on 3s. It's a wound on a 6, -2, so a 5-up save. I'm going to reroll that fail for the Lion. I shouldn't have done that, but it paid off. Trying to get the most out of this plasma cannon before he's, definitely killed. We're going to fire everything into the Technomancer, we're going to use more bullets tactic, and we're going to take the comms bonus. So this is going to be D3 shots, +1 for the more bullets. That familiar disappointment. 4s for the flesh wound, 5 for obscured, 4s for the comms. So that's 1 hit, strength 8, toughness 4, so 2s to wound. No save for the Technomancer, so that's 2 wounds down. The wounded Tesla is now going to fire into the plasma sniper, needing to hit on 6s because he's wounded. But because it's Tesla, any 6 is 3 hits. And unfortunately that's 2 misses. Plasma Sniper is going to overcharge and fire into the unwounded Tesla Immortal. Just 1 shot at this range, hitting on 5s but re-rolling 1s. And it's a miss on a 4. Staff of Light from the Technomancer into the TAC Marine at close range. Hitting on 3s, and that's 2 hits. Strength 5, toughness 4 now, so wounding on 3s. Just the 1 wound, but I use the Zerakan reroll, and I get the second. -2, so it's going to be a 5-up save. Fails both, so this will go to the injury roll. And on a 3, it's just a flesh wound. No available targets for the comms specialist for his bolt gun. So we move on to the Necron's unready model, and the Immortal Tesla will fire into the Plasma Sniper. Because he can't see the plasma cannon. 2 shots, hitting on 5s and 6s. And he misses. Company veterans firing his plasma into the Triarch Praetorian. He's overcharging, and it's 2 shots, hitting on 4s. Strength 8, toughness 5, so wounding on 3s. -2, so he gets a 6-up save, and it's failed on a 2. Worth a command point to try and score 4 quarters, but it's still a 2. 2 damage, so it goes straight through to try and take him out of action. And a double 3 is just a flesh wound. Triarch Praetorian is still deep in the Dark Angel's lines, which is bad news for their home objective. All the shooting has been done now, so we move on to the combat phase. There's not enough CP for an interrupt, so Necrons will get to take their pick. Starting with the Zealot Flayed One, and they're going to put all their attacks into the company veteran. 4 attacks, hitting on 3s. Not using the Zerakan here, 3's enough, and it's strength 5, toughness 4, so wounding on 3s. All 3 go through, and at a -1, it's a 4-up save. Fails 2, which is enough to kill him. And on the roll of a 5, he's taken out of action. Spurred on by the carnage, the Triarch Praetorian will now attack the Terminator Sergeant. Hitting on 3s. Well, that was unlikely. The Combat Lich Guard will now do his best to slow down the Lieutenant. 4 attacks, hitting on 3s. Gets 2 and uses a Serican reroll. Still just the 2. Strength 5, Toughness 4, so wounding on 3s. Gonna use a Serican reroll here as well. Still just the 1 wound, but it's -3, so a 6-up save. Fails on a 3, so he's 1 wound down. Terminator Sergeant's going to pile into both and split his attacks. He has 3 attacks, so we're going to go 2 into the Praetorian and 1 into the Flayed one. Hitting on 3s, starting with the Flayed one. Got too greedy, and the 2 into the Triarch Praetorian, and they both hit. Strength 5, Toughness 5, so I'm going to need 4s to wound. Both go through. -3 AP on the Power Sword, so they're going to be 6-up saves. Fails them both, and he's only got 1 wound left, but it is just 1 damage, so this is 1d6 trying to take him out of action. Might be a bit of a waste of a CP. Even if I kill him, I'll still only be contesting this objective, and I've already lost control more. I do reroll it, and I do get a 4, which means there's 1 less damage 2 model in my lines. Lieutenant Sevastopol now will swing his mastercrafted Power Sword. 4 base attacks, plus another 1 for the melee specialism, and it's hitting on 2s. Strength 5, Toughness 5, so wounding on 4s. Just the 1 wound after all that. It's -3 AP, but he has a 4-up save for his Dispersion Shield. Fails his Dispersion Shield save, so it's 2d6 to take him out of action. On the roll of a 6, he's fine, doesn't even have a flesh wound. The only model on the table that might fail a morale check is this TAC Marine here, but he passes. And that's the end of turn 2. Now let's look at the scores, starting with the Dark Angels. It's a low scoring turn again for the Dark Angels. They have held 1 objective, and they also killed 1 model, but not more than the Necrons on either of those points, so it's just 2 points for round 2 for the Dark Angels on the primary. The secondaries aren't looking any better for the Dark Angels at the end of round 2. They haven't scored Death from Afar yet, or David and Goliath. Steadfast is still in play though, as they still hold their primary objective, Objective 1. Moving on to the Necrons, and they have scored a little bit better at the end of round 2. They hold 1 more, and they've killed 1 model also, giving them a grand total of 3 points at the end of battle round 2. Looking at their secondaries for the Necrons, they've been fairly consistent, scoring another 1 point for 4 quarters. They've yet to achieve David and Goliath, and they haven't got Overkill yet. So at the end of battle round 2, the Necrons are firmly in the lead, getting another 4 points, meaning that it's 6 points to the Necrons and only 3 points to the Dark Angels. Pressure's on the Dark Angels as we go into turn 3. Turn 3 initiative roll, Dark Angels get a 9, and the Necrons get a 10, that's gotta hurt. The 3 Immortals are all gonna ready up. Despite counting as multiple minis for the sake of objectives, the commander is just going to move forward to make sure there's no way the TAC Marine can get on the objective. The Praetorian is going to charge the company veteran, doing the overwatch first, overcharges, but misses both times. And now for the charge, and he makes it in on an 8. Flayed One and the Lich Guard are both going to stay in combat. And that's it for Necron's turn 3 movement phase. Here's a recap of what's happened. As you can see, they're still holding their 2 base objectives, and they are still contesting Objective 2. It's a little slim, they only have 1 model in quarters 1 and 3, but they still hold all 4 currently. Start of Dark Angels turn 3, and their gun line is also going to ready up. That's the Plasma Heavy, the Plasma Sniper, and the Comms Specialist. I think my initial plan was to charge in with the TAC Marine and hope I get lucky, but he's actually far more likely to kill him with a grenade, so I'm just going to ready and try and kill him with a grenade so that it takes him off Objective 4. And that's the end of the turn for the Dark Angels. Their 2 in combat are going to stay there. They have their home objective still, which is eligible for Steadfast. Again with the initiative, the Necrons are going to choose their leader Gauze Blaster to fire at the twice flesh-wounded Plasma Cannon. 1 shot at this range, hitting on 5s. Misses, but going to use a Zerakan reroll. And he does hit on a 5, strength 5, so wounding on 3s. Fails to wound on a 1, but going to use that Zerakan reroll. So useful. But it is still a failed wound on a 2. The Necrons are going to spend 1 CP for superior inheritance, and the Necron leader is going to fire his Gauze Blaster this time into the Tac Marine that's moving towards the Technomancer. Needing 4s, so he misses both shots. Hefting his plasma cannon on his now tattered shoulders, he's going to fire at the commander. +1 from the comms, and we're using 1 CP for more bullets. D3 shots +1, so that is 3 shots, hitting on 4s. Better believe he's overcharging. Grim Resolve lets him reroll the 1. And he still gets 2 hits, strength 8, toughness 4, so wounding on 2s. They ricochet off the Canoptic Cloak and do no damage. Or do they? Using a tactical reroll, and I do manage to get a wound, and it's 2 damage going through at -3. Unfortunately, due to living metal, he was up to 3 wounds, but he goes back down to just the 1 wound. So close. Unwounded Tesla's going to fire into the plasma gun, hitting on 5s. And he gets 1, so that becomes 3 hits. Strength 5, so wounding on 3s. All 3 wound, but there's no AP, so it's just a 3-up save. Fails 2, which is enough to kill him, so it's going to go to the injury roll, needing a 5 or a 6 though. Just a flesh wound, but at this stage it could score them overkill, so they're going to use a reroll to try and take him out of action and score overkill. And on the roll of a 5, they take him out of action, and they also score 1 point for overkill. Also, have I said overkill enough yet? Any more times and it might be overkill? Flesh wounded Tesla is now going to shoot at the plasma cannon, needing to hit on 6s though. The Tac Marine now is going to throw a crack grenade into the commander. He's only got 1 wound left, and this could kill him. Hits on a 3. And it's a wound on a 6. -1 AP, so he's going to need a 5-up save. He only has a 4 base. Or when he fails it, so they're going to use a reroll. And it's still a fail. This is going to be D3 damage. This is a big deal in terms of scoring victory points and also denying their opponent victory points. And that's the perfect roll. Getting a 4 will take the commander out of action, getting them 3 points for David and Goliath, and they now won't be holding that objective. The Triarch Praetorian will now strike into the company veteran, -1 because of his flesh wound. Gets 1 hit, at strength 5, it's going to be wounding on 3s. Wounds on a 5, at -3 AP, it'll be saving on 6s. Slightly worried about having a Triarch Praetorian in my lines and unchecked. I'm going to reroll to try and save him. Close but no cigar, so it will go to the injury roll. And on a 5, he's taken out of action. And now there's a Triarch Praetorian in my deployment quarter looking at my steadfast objective. Seems more important to kill the Terminator, so we're going to start activation with the Zealot Flayed one. Only 3 attacks this time because he didn't charge. All 3 hit, but it's strength 4, toughness 4, we're going to need 4s again to wound. That is one efficient Flayed one. 3-up save for the Termi, and he is loving life. The Lieutenant is sick of this combat and he's going to end it. 5 attacks, hitting on 2s. Strength 5, so wounding on 4s. Damn. 4+ dispersion shield saves. A noble effort, but that is 6 damage that goes through. This is going to be 2d6 to take him out of action. And on a 4 and a 5, that's exactly what happens. Commander's then going to use his consolidation to move towards the Tesla line. Despite the Necron flailing ineffectually against the Terminator armor, it's time to take him out. Just hitting the once, so maybe not quite time. It is a wound on a 4 though, and no save. But on the roll of a 1, it's just a flesh wound. Could potentially fail morale with the flayed one, but he passes on a 3. Looking at the Dark Angel scoring now for the primaries, and round 3 was their best so far. They've got hold 1, kill 1, and their commander did more than the Necron commander, so they get 1 point for that. So a total of 3 points for the primaries for turn 3. Still not doing great on the secondaries though. They did get David and Goliath netting 3 points, but have still yet to score Death from Afar. Steadfast though is still on the table. Moving on to the Necrons' primary scores now, and losing the Technomancer has really hurt them. They held 1 and they would have held more, and they killed 1, but that's it. So they've only got 2 points for round 3 on the primaries. Moving on to the secondaries for the Necrons now, and again, losing that commander has meant that they don't get 4 quarters this turn. So they get overkill, and that's it. So 1 point for the secondaries for round 3. That means at the end of turn 3, the scores are neck and neck. Both teams now have 9 victory points as we move in to the final turn. Turn 4 initiative roll, Necrons get an 8, and finally the Dark Angels win, getting an 11. The Hero Attack Marine is going to advance onto Objective 4, trying to get out of line of sight of those Immortals. This is probably a little foolhardy as they have David and Goliath, but Lieutenant Sevastopol is going to charge the Immortals. First Tesla Immortal misses with his Overwatch, as does the second, so now it's just the charge. Fails a charge roll on a 6, so we're going to re-roll it. Gets a 7, but it's not enough, so he's going to move forward but stay in cover. Debated charging the Triarch Praetorian, but I sort of need the bodies on the objective, so I just ready both the comms and the heavy specialist. Terminator stays in combat, and that's it. Here's a recap of the turn. The Dark Angels now hold objectives 1 and 4, and they are contesting objective 2. That objective 1 is still viable for Steadfast as long as they're holding it at the end of this turn. The Necron Immortals were all ready, and the Triarch Praetorian is going to charge both the heavy and the comms specialist. Comms is going to throw a crack grenade, can reroll 1s, and misses. Now D3 shots from the plasma cannon. Going to overcharge, but misses both. And on the roll of a 7, it's enough to get into both. Hard choice for the Triarch Praetorian. He can go for the Flesh Wounded Plasma Cannon, but there's intervening terrain, getting him a -1, or he can go for the Comms Specialist. Flayed One's just going to stay in combat with the Terminator. And here's a recap of the Necron movement phase. No options to shoot with the Dark Angels, so we'll move on to the Immortal Leader, who's going to fire his 2 shots into the Commander. Hits with 1, but I'm going to use the Zerakan reroll, and I get a second, strength 5, so wounding on 3s. Using a Zerakan reroll, and that's 2 wounds at -2, so looking for 5-up saves. And he makes him on a double 6. Tried and tested, the Necrons are going to use 1 CP for Superior Inheritance to shoot again. Again, Gauze Blaster into the Commander. Still shaken from seeing those 2 wounds deflected, he misses both times. Flesh Wounded Tesla, misses, needed 5s, and now the Unwounded Tesla. Gets 1 hit, but it is a 6, so that's 3 hits. Strength 5, wounding on 3s. 2 wounds, but it is no AP, so a standard 3-up save. And he fails 1, so he takes a wound. Start of the combat phase now with all the shooting done, and both sides are going to use their last 2 CP for Decisive Strike, so it's going to be a roll-off to see who gets to go first. Decisive Strike roll-off, Necrons get a 6, and the Dark Angels get a 4, so the Necrons will get to go first. I go back and forth whether I should just attack 1 to contest it to deny Steadfast, or if I should try and claim it to deny Hold More. Ultimately, I'm going to go for the greedy option and try and kill them both to take the objective. 1 attack on the Plasma Cannon, hitting on 5s because of the Flesh Wound and intervening terrain. And he hits, it's a Strength 5, Toughness 4, so wounding on 3s. And that's a wound. Fails a 6-up save, so this is going to be 2d6 taking him out of action. And on a double 3 due to his flesh wounds, he is taken out of action. That will also incidentally score me 1 point this turn for overkill. 2 attacks to go, hitting on 4s. 1 hit, wounding on 3s, and it's a wound as well. 5-up save for his combat shield, and he makes it. Moving over with their turn, and the Sergeant's going to try and take out the Flayed One. Hits twice and both wound, no save, so it goes straight to the injury roll. And on a 5, he's taken out of action, and the Terminator will now take that objective uncontested. It's worth 3 victory points if the Comms Specialist can take out the Praetorian. Hitting on 3s, and he gets 2. Wounding on 5s now. And it does fail to wound, so they won't get Steadfast. With that, let's look at the scores at the end of the game. Starting with the Dark Angels, and it's not a bad turn at the end of round 4. They hold 1 objective, and with them taking 4 and the Terminator killing the Flayed One, they now hold more. They also killed 1 model, so they've got 3 points at the end of round 4. Looking at the secondary objectives for the Dark Angels, and they just missed out on 3 victory points for Steadfast, and they never got Death from Afar, so they only get 3 for the entire game. Moving on to the Necrons and their primary objectives, at the end of round 4 they only got 2 primary objectives. They held 1 and they killed 1. It's a similar story for their secondary objectives, again only scoring 1 in round 4, and that was for overkill. They got a little unlucky with the dice rolls. They probably should have got David and Goliath, but that's how it goes. So at the end of the game, the scores are tied at 12 victory points apiece. However, the Dark Angels commander was not taken out of action and is unshaken, so the Dark Angels will actually win the game. And if you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you check out the Commanders International guys. I'll leave the links in the description. Make sure you like if you like this kind of video and subscribe for more content. We'll see you in the next video. Bye now.